Welcome to our podcast. I'm your host for today and every episode, Luca. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey Luca, thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. I'm really excited about today's episode and can't wait to dive into our conversation. So, I've got something super exciting for you today. And I really can't wait to dive right into it. You know how we're always looking for ways to make learning English, more natural and fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm totally pumped about today's topic because it's something that can, completely transform how people learn English.
Right, so, today we're talking about something that's it's really close to home literally. We're diving into how to use your daily routine to learn English.
You know what? That's exactly what makes this topic so powerful. Because we're not talking about adding extra study time or, complicated methods. It's all about taking the things you already do every single day and turning them into amazing learning opportunities.
I know our listeners are probably wondering how exactly this works. Adrian, you're basically like an expert at this stuff.
And I've got so many practical tips to share with everyone today. We're talking about real, actionable stuff that you can start using right away. You know what I mean. From the moment you wake up to when you go to bed, there are just so many opportunities to practice English.
Speaking of waking up, what's the first thing we can do in the morning to start learning English?
Oh, you know what? The morning routine is actually one of the most powerful times for learning. Think about it. From the moment you open your eyes, you can start immersing yourself in English.
Really? Can you, give us some specific examples?
Absolutely. So the first thing I always recommend is setting your phone's language to English right. That way, the very first thing you see when you check your alarm is in English.
Oh, that's actually super smart.
And while you're making breakfast, you can put on an English podcast, just like this one. The thing is, your brain is super fresh in the morning and it's the perfect time to absorb new information.
What about, the actual breakfast part? Is there a way to include English there too?
Oh my goodness, yes. This is one of my favorite tips. You can actually label everything in your kitchen with sticky notes in English, like your coffee machine, your cereal box, the fridge. Everything you touch becomes a mini English lesson.
So, it's like turning your whole kitchen into a classroom.
Exactly. And it's not just about the labels. You can practice speaking too. While you're making breakfast, just narrate what you're doing. I'm pouring milk. I'm spreading butter on my toast. You know what I mean. It's these small, everyday actions that really help the language sink in.
That's actually genius. You're basically learning without even realizing it.
And here's another fantastic morning tip. Try reading the news in English while you eat. Just 5 minutes, It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Even scrolling through English news headlines on your phone can make a huge difference.
So what about when we're heading to work? There must be some good ways to practice during our commute, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The commute is like this amazing opportunity that most people totally miss out on. You know what I mean. It's this perfect pocket of time where you're just sitting there.
What would you recommend for someone who drives to work?
So the first thing I always tell people is to use audiobooks or English radio shows. And here's the really cool part. You can actually practice speaking out loud when you're alone in your car. It's like your own private English classroom.
And what about people who take public transport?
Oh my goodness, that's even better. Because you can actually read English content on your phone or do these amazing vocabulary apps. And there are these fantastic podcasts, just like How to Learn English Using Daily Routine, that you can listen to with headphones.
What about when we actually get to work? Is there a way to, keep learning without disrupting our job?
Definitely. So if you work at a computer, you know you can change your entire operating system to English and try writing your personal notes in English, even if they're just for you.
Hey, I actually need to pause for a quick second here, because you know what? We've got something really important to demanding to our amazing listeners.
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. This is actually the perfect moment too, to talk about that.
So guys, if you're loving all these practical tips and you want to keep learning with us, we'd be super grateful if you could subscribe to our channel Englebright Podcast. You know, we're putting out new content like this all the time, and we really want to help you on your English learning journey.
And we've got so many more amazing episodes coming up. Like, seriously, we're going to dive deep into all sorts of practical ways to improve your English.
Now, let's get back to our conversation about daily routines. So Anna, I'm really curious about the evening routine. You know, like when people get home from work or school, what can they do to keep learning English?
Oh, this is one of my favorite parts of the day to practice English, and there are so many amazing opportunities here. Like, first of all, when you're making dinner, right, you can put on an English cooking show in the background.
That's, actually really clever. You get to learn food vocabulary while cooking.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that you're learning real, practical English that you can use right away. Like, you know, words for ingredients, cooking methods, and kitchen equipment.
What about after dinner? Like, during relaxation time.
That's when it gets really fun. So what I always tell my students is to watch their favorite shows in English, right? But here's the trick. Start with subtitles in your native language if you need to, then switch to English subtitles and eventually try watching without any subtitles at all.
Sounds like a great way to wind down while still learning.
Absolutely. And there's something else that's super powerful, you know, right before bed. Like keeping a journal in English about your day. It's amazing for processing everything you've learned and practicing your writing skills.
What about reading before bed? I've heard that's good for language learning.
Yes, absolutely. Start with something simple, right? Like children's books or maybe some easy English magazines. And the really cool thing is that reading in English before bed actually helps your brain process the language while you sleep.
Speaking of different times to practice, what about weekends? Like, what kind of opportunities do people have when they are not stuck in their usual routine?
Oh my goodness, weekends are they're absolutely amazing for English practice. And you know what's really cool? You can actually turn almost any weekend activity into an English learning opportunity.
Oh, that's interesting.
And here's something really exciting. If you're meeting friends for coffee or lunch, right, you can actually suggest having an English conversation practice session. Like, even just 15 minutes of speaking English together can make such a huge difference.
That's really cool. How about, social media time? Most people spend more time on their phones during weekends.
Oh, this is such a good point. And it's actually super simple to turn your social media time into English practice. Like, you can change your phone's language settings to English, follow English-speaking content creators, and even try commenting in English on posts. You know what I mean. It's like creating this whole English environment for yourself.
We've actually prepared some questions that we'd love for you to answer in the comments. First, which part of your daily routine do you think would be easiest to add some English practice to?
And here's another great question. Right, what's one specific activity from today's episode that you're definitely going to try tomorrow?
Before we go, I just want to remind everyone to subscribe to our channel, Englebright Podcast, for more amazing English learning content.
Remember, everyone, learning English isn't about these huge, overwhelming changes. It's about these small, consistent steps that we take every single day, right? Like we always say on How to Learn English Using Daily Routine, it's the little habits that make the biggest difference.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you in our next episode.
Bye, everyone. And don't forget to start implementing these changes today. Like right after this episode ends. You've got this.